welcome back to the J&A Homebuyers channel. Here we talk all things real estate. We help deals get done, and we help, in this case, people who are facing financial troubles. So if you are somebody who's facing foreclosure, or if you're an investor who's wanting to help somebody who's facing foreclosure, this video is going to be covering the foreclosure process in Texas. Specifically, how does the process go? So we're going to cover the three types of foreclosures in Texas. How does that foreclosure process start? How much time do I have on this foreclosure? And then, are federally backed loans different? So stick around, let's find out. And the key thing here is, if you are one of these people that are facing foreclosure, you could feel very overwhelmed, but there are ways to fix and get you out of that situation. I cannot emphasize enough, the earlier the better. So let's roll, let's dive into the content. All right, the three types of foreclosures in Texas. There's judicial, there's non-judicial, and then there's expedited. So the three basic types, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, are one, the lien holder would have to file a civil case against you for not paying the loan, essentially go through the court process, then they're awarded the foreclosure process. The second, which is the most common in Texas, is the non-judiciary one. And this one, they don't need to file a court case. It's found in the deed of trust. It outlines everything for them, and they can just file the paperwork and the foreclosure begins, okay? The third one is expedited, the expedited foreclosure. And in the expedited foreclosure, these are for specific types of loans. Typically, this is for reverse mortgages, or maybe a home equity line of credit, or some sort of non-conventional type of loan that was taken out on that property. Texas actually requires those to go through the judicial process. However, those are standard loans, so they've created an expedited application essentially that they can process, which makes it much more like the non-judiciary. Again, getting the foreclosure through much faster than it would otherwise. So if you're facing foreclosure, we're going to be covering the non-judiciary form of the foreclosure in this video, which is what most people are facing. So how does the foreclosure process start? If you can think back to when you bought the house or when you refinanced your house in the first place, you signed something called a deed of trust. And in that deed of trust, I'm going to put this in very layman's terms here, I'm not a lawyer, so don't hold me on this. But in layman's terms, it just says, hey, if I don't make the payments, I'm going to relinquish my property through the foreclosure process and give the lender the right to foreclose on me. That deed of trust is filed with the clerk in Harris County or in Houston or whatever clerk that you're in Texas, and they keep it as a file, as a record. So in the event you don't pay, they go to the clerk and say, hey, here's our proof of non-payment. You can look up in your records. They had acknowledged that we could begin the foreclosure process, and they failed to follow the promissory note, which is another document that you signed when you bought the house, saying, hey, I'm going to pay this much each month, so on and so forth. Those are the two documents that actually enable them to go through the foreclosure process without having a court hearing. So that's how that works. That's how it gets started. How much time do you have in Texas? In Texas, it's very different than a lot of other states. It actually is a very fast process for foreclosure. So once you're late on your payments, they have to give you a notice, and in that notice, they have to give you 20 days to make your loan balance up to par, right? You need to pay all late payments on your loan and any fees that you may have incurred or legal fees on their behalf that they had by not getting this. So that needs to be brought up to speed. If it's not at that point, they can actually legally call the entire loan balance due. They don't have to work with you anymore. They're saying, hey, you owe us the entire loan, but they do have to give you 21 days minimum, okay? And the way it works is it's 21 days, and then that property is auctioned. And you have all the way up till that last day, or the day before that last day, really, to sell it, or to refinance it, or to pay off that loan to avoid your house being foreclosed upon, okay? Now, on that 21st day, it's auctioned on the courthouse steps. And in Harris County, they do that on the first Tuesday of every month. So if it's, let's say, 25 days out, that's probably what it's going to be for you in that case, is the first Tuesday of that month. Now the auction, a lot of people get this wrong. They think, oh, the bank's taking the property from me during that foreclosure process and etc. They actually don't own the property at all. You still own that property until it's auctioned, and they auction it to the public. Anyone can buy it, because if by chance you have some equity in there, that equity does actually go to you as the seller. Now, it destroys your credit, so it's a terrible idea to try to bank on this. The other thing too to keep in mind is that only about 20 to 30% of the houses that go to foreclosure auction actually get sold. The rest of them just sit there, nobody buys them, and it goes back to the banks. Trust me, the banks don't want it either. However, that is what happens. Then the bank ends up owning it, becomes an REO, okay? Different video. So again, time-wise, you really have about 40 days to get it all sorted out, to get out from underneath of this property, sell it or refinance it or cash out, okay? If it is a federally backed loan, it's a little different, because the federally backed loans have different rules and requirements that they need to follow. And it's a federally backed loan. That means that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac owns the loan. Okay, now you may be thinking, I'm not paying Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, that doesn't apply to me. That's not always the case, because a lot of times if you're paying Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or some other main bank, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac actually owns the debt on that. That bank, Chase, may just be servicing the debt on that. And there's a whole other article on that. We can dive into that in a little more detail. But they're just basically collecting those payments. Now, these Fed-backed loans have rules. And the first rule is they need to wait at least 30 days. They're going to notify you of late payment, but within 30 days, they need to notify you that your payment is late. At day 36, they need to make contact with you. They need to call you, show up at your door, something. They make contact with you, okay? And then they need to, by 45 days, assign one specific person to your case. They're going to try to work with you to get your situation resolved, and someone like Chase here might actually be calling you to work through how do we get you out of not foreclosing. They want to help you get out of that situation, essentially. And then after 121 days, they can finally file that foreclosure process in Texas. And it's, again, non-judiciary, so it goes through the fast process of foreclosing. And that's it. That's really as simple as it is. The key thing I can emphasize is, just from stories in the past, there's a lot of unexpected things that can happen when selling a home, that if you wait till the last minute, you risk everything. So some examples of things we've seen before. Somebody had a mechanic's lien on their house. Now, they had not paid a painter, they were late on it, but then they went back after the lien was filed and paid the painter, and the painter never took the lien off. So the lien's on the property, they paid the painter, they had the proof, but we just couldn't clear the record in time because they waited until the last minute, and now they can't sell the property, it ends up foreclosing. Another situation we've seen is maybe when the property was first purchased, the survey wasn't done 100% correct, and maybe part of your property or part of your house is slightly over your borderline. Those are things that can be fixed if you have time. If you don't have time, there's no way to fix it in a spur of a moment on one day's notice. That's just not possible, right? So the earlier you talk to somebody, if you're gonna sell the house, the better chances you have of A, not ruining your credit, and then B, actually saving and walking away with some money from this deal in the first place, right? Which is really the best scenario. Now, if you are in a situation, and I've seen this so many times before, where you're like, I can't sell my house, I can't move, I've got nowhere to go, and you're paralyzed, there are ways to help you out. Again, reaching out and taking the first step is the main thing you need to do. If you don't reach out and you don't talk to a real estate professional that knows how to help people in these things, then you're not going to make this process move forward. So give us a call, visit us on our website. If this video helped you as an investor or as a seller of an owner of a home, like and follow and share this channel. We cover all sorts of different topics about real estate, from foreclosures to owning rental properties to financing properties to everything that you can believe in that process. So give us a like, give us a follow, and we'll see you next time.